So we are done with our first piece of functionality, which is to retrieve all of the book records and show them in a table. But before we move on to the search functionality, let us discuss a couple of points. First, let us write our axios code in a slightly different way. Under the src folder, create a new folder called APIs. So I'm going to type APIs. And so I have created a new folder under src called APIs. And to this APIs folder, let's add a file called api.js. And in api.js, let's import axios. So I'm going to type import axios from axios. We can create an axios object by calling axios.create, and we can pass in configuration that is common to all HTTP requests over here. For example, our base URL will always be http://localhost:4000, and we know that our JSON server has given an API that deals only with JSON data, so we can specify our content type header also over here. So let's write headers, and let's specify an object for headers, and let's type content-type, and let's specify application/JSON as the value. We can assign this to a variable called API. So I'm going to write const API equals, and we can take that variable and export it. So let's write export default API. Now let's go back to our React component and let's rewrite this line of code. Instead of using Axios directly, let's import API and use API. So I'm going to write import API from, and I'm going to specify the relative path over here. I'm going to type .. and specify .. again, and select the APIs folder and then API within it. So now I have imported API and I can use that in the code over here. So let us rewrite this statement using API now. So I'm going to comment out this code now, and I'm going to type const response equals await API.get, and I'll specify the path as /books. Let's check if this code works. As you can see here, the code is still working. There are a couple of advantages that we get because of what we did just now. First is that this code is a little bit shorter than this code over here. And the second advantage is that our code is better organized now. If we have to add additional headers, for example, that are common to all API calls, it will be sufficient to make that modification in this file in one place over here. So let me remove this commented out code now. Let's remove these comments as well. So this function is looking a lot more cleaner now. And there's one more point we have to discuss before we move on to implementing other pieces of functionality, and that is regarding useEffect and the async keyword. We know that useEffect takes in a callback as the first parameter. That means it takes a function as the first parameter, and there is a restriction that the callback cannot be async. Instead of writing the code like this, it is very likely that we write code in the wrong way in the first attempt. Let's look at the wrong way now. We could have written useEffect, and for the callback, we could have taken this function definition over here and passed it as the callback to useEffect. And we could have specified our empty array as the second parameter. This is the wrong way of writing code with respect to useEffect because we have passed in an async callback. If we comment out this code and if we go to the web page, we can still see the output. If we reload the page, we can see that there are some warnings, and amongst the warnings we have an important warning over here which says effect callbacks are synchronous to prevent race conditions. Let's read that once again. Effect callbacks are synchronous to prevent race conditions. And the warning also suggests how we can modify our code to make the effect callback synchronous. The warning basically asks us to put our asynchronous code within a separate function marked async, and to call that async function within the callback that we pass to useEffect. The warning basically asks us to do something similar to what we have done over here. So we can either modify the code like the warning has suggested, which is what we had written previously, or we have to get rid of the async and await keywords. There is another way to write this code, so let's see that. We can write the same code using promises, so let's do that. So I'm going to type useEffect, and for the callback we'll specify an arrow function, and in the function body let's type api.get/books, and let's use promises here. So I'm going to write then, and I'm going to pass a callback to then. Let's pass an arrow function as a callback. Let us specify response as the parameter, and the function body will have just one statement which has this line of code. So I'm going to copy this and paste it over here. So here we have used promises, and here we have used the async and await keywords. Let me comment out the code related to the async and await keywords, and let's check the output using promises. Let me reload the page and let me look at the console now. And as you can see, that warning has gone away. However, we have another warning which says each child in a list should have a unique key prop, and that is because when we call a map function, we haven't assigned a key prop to this tr tag over here. So let's do that. So I'm going to type key equals, since every book record has an ID, we can use that. So I'm going to specify book.id as the key. So let's save that and check the output. I have cleared the console and let me reload the page. As you can see here, that warning has gone away now. Coming back to our discussion about promises and async and await and useEffect. Using promises is a slightly older way of writing code. More people seem to prefer to use the async and await keywords nowadays. So I'm going to remove this promises code and also this wrong way of writing code now. And I'm going to uncomment our previous code, which was using async and await. Let's go back to the web page and reload the page, and everything seems to be working fine.